Hello everyone. So I started the stream a couple of minutes before 4 o'clock. I'll probably wait for 4 o'clock and then we'll start. All right, so it is 4 o'clock and I really want to start the stream now on time. Now, this is the very first stream or live stream of 2023. So, thank you for giving me your feedback because I was, in fact, trying to do live streams even last year as well, and I think I have done a couple of live streams in the past, but I was never really regular with live streams. But based on the feedback, based on suggestions, I thought, okay, let us do a live stream as well because some people do want to connect with me. Now, these live streams that I will be doing, hopefully every month. So these live streams would be on YouTube because I don't really want to uh, make them private. I want everyone to be able to join the live streams. And I think YouTube works really well because you can just, open this link and you can attend the webinar. And of course, after this webinar, this would be nothing but a video. So you can always watch this webinar whenever you want, whenever you feel like. So today, the topic of this webinar is ITSM, and there is no specific reason why I decided to pick ITSM or I decided to uh, do the very first webinar of 2023 on the topic of Jira Service Management. But I have It has been a while. I mean, I've done a lot of work with Jira Service Management. I've basically done a lot of implementations in the past where I have helped my customers get the most out of Jira Service Management. But I wanted to also check some of the new features. So if you are new to Jira Service Management, if you have never really used Jira Service Management, then hopefully this session will help you, because in this session, of course, we will try to look at the features of Jira Service Management. We will try to use it as well. So today we will basically start by creating a new Jira Service Management based project, and we will try to cover one very simple use case. So this is something that I thought I'll probably do in the very first webinar. I want to basically talk about something very straightforward and simple. And I believe people who have never really used Jira Service Management, or maybe in case you're trying to use Jira Service Management, then hopefully this session will help you. And at the same time, today, I also want to cover a few simple use cases, and the topic, the session's name or the webinar title is ITSM. So ITSM is nothing but some set of practices that organizations follow. They try to follow these processes that are or that have become industry standard. And good thing about Jira Service Management is that Jira Service Management actually supports these processes out of the box. Of course, when we talk about Jira Service Management is nothing but, I mean, the core is definitely Jira. So it is based on Jira. So if you want to modify something in your Jira Service Management based project, you can. And you can always customize your Jira Service Management, because it is nothing but Jira. But at the same time, you may also want to get started quickly. Maybe you are not massively familiar with Jira, or maybe you're coming from a different tool. Then you want to know the capabilities of the tool. You want to know what Jira can do and what Jira cannot do. Now, I used to work for a company where I was doing, my main responsibility was basically to help the customers understand not just the features of the tool, but also help them migrate to Jira Service Management. So Jira Service Management as compared to Jira Software, because when you talk about Jira comes in mainly three flavors. Of course, you have Jira Work Management. If you talk about Jira Work Management on cloud, of course, on data center, you have Jira Core. But of course, you have Jira Software. You also have Jira Service Management. So broadly, three flavors. And if you talk about these three flavors or the use cases, when it comes to using Jira Software, for example, of course, you have those two templates, right? So basically, you have not really template, but I should say type of Jira software projects that you can create. You have, of course, Scrum and Kanban. And of course, within Scrum and Kanban, you can, of course, have your own workflow. So when it comes to using Jira for software development, of course, Jira supports Agile, and it is great. But at the same time, as compared to ITSM or ITIL practices, ITSM practices or ITIL is basically a very mature set of processes. So companies have been doing these things for many years, and probably these practices are, I'm not really sure about the number of years or the age, but service desk itself, or providing support or some kind of help desk for your customers, these things are very common, and you have to do it very carefully. You have to do it in a proper way, because you're dealing with customers. For example, if I provide a service to my customers, I need to make sure that I also keep them happy if they are trying to maybe get my help, or maybe they have used my product and they are trying to get some support from me, then number one, they should be able to do it easily. And at the same time, you should also ensure, if you're providing a service, that your customer is happy. So you don't really want to upset your customer, because these days customers, depending upon what kind of service you provide or what kind of product you have, because there is a lot of competition. For example, if I order something from a mobile app, let us talk about those apps that you can use to get your food delivered. Now these days, of course, we have a lot of options, and if you are as a customer not happy and you stay unhappy, then you will never really come back to the same service or product again. You will probably move on. So it is very important to set up your Jira service management. In case you are thinking of using Jira, of course, you might be using another tool. There are a lot of other tools in the market. Jira service management is, of course, very popular, and it has been popular for many years. So to begin, if in case you have never really used Jira service management before, my recommendation, like always, would be to get your hands dirty. Good thing about Jira Cloud is, as compared to Jira Data Center, getting started is very simple. So you can always go to atlassian.com, and you can always go to the option on top called products. And depending upon what you want to evaluate, you can either evaluate, or you can also use these products for free. So there is always some kind of a free plan. So there is a free plan that you can use. So there is something called as a Jira. If you go to the pricing, of course, you have standard, you have premium, and you have enterprise, but you also have the free version. And I think free version is quite good. Of course, it will have some less features, but broadly, or if you talk about, let us say 80% of the things that you want to do, or the features of the tool, you have it even in the free version. So you may not want to use free version forever. Maybe you want to, of course, move on to a paid plan, but instead of doing an evaluation of Jira for like a week or maybe for a month, you can actually use and keep using Jira free version. So get started with the free version of Jira. And if you're a small team, then you should definitely just sign up and play with it. And I will show you today. What we'll do today, we'll create a project, and we'll take a look at how quickly you can get started with Jira service management. Of course, you can do the same thing for Jira software as well, or maybe Jira work management. Maybe we'll do another. I've made videos on Jira work management, and today, of course, the focus is Jira service management. So spend some time on the website, and to be honest, this is all marketing stuff. We'll probably jump into the actual tool. Now, I want to spend some time on the pricing. So of course, you should spend some time and maybe take a look at what features you need, and depending upon those features, whether you should be using premium version or enterprise version, make a decision, make an informed decision. So if you look at the pricing here, you can actually jump to this section where you can actually learn about what features you will get when it comes to using free version or standard version, or maybe premium or enterprise. So let us spend some time here. Not really a lot, but maybe a few minutes. So if you want to get started, as I mentioned before, you can actually, you might think that, okay, if you're using a free version of Jira, then you might not get all the features. But to be honest, trust me, you have most of the features. So free version is quite good. Of course, there are limitations, but if you're a small team and you're trying to maybe set up something for your organization, I think this works really nicely. And the way Jira Service Management works, in case you are not familiar with it, there is something called as a user. So you pay in, just like any other Jira product, you basically pay for the number of users using your Jira Service Management, right? So it is not just the normal users, because when you talk about Jira software, you have, of course, developers. So basically everyone is a user. But in Jira Service Management, there is a concept of an agent. So agent is basically a person who would be responding to your customers' request. So when you receive a new ticket from your customers, your agents will respond to that ticket, and they can interact with the customer. They can work on the project. So they have access to the features of Jira Service Management, and we'll take a look at those features today, if not all, some of them or most of them, so you can get started. Now with the free version of Jira, you get basically 3 agents. So basically you may have a Jira with a lot of users, but if only 3 people are going to respond to your customers, or maybe if you're starting, maybe you are a small company startup and okay, we need at least a couple of people, I think 3 agents are enough. We also use the Jira Service Management, and I'll show you how we use it. So we basically use Jira Service Management to get requests from our customers or potential clients, and I also use Jira Service Management to receive tickets. So on my channel, on my YouTube channel, people raise tickets to reach out to me if they have any questions for me. Of course, I encourage them to raise a ticket for me so that I can channelize, I can organize those tickets, and I have time to respond to you. Because when you add a comment on my channel, it's a bit difficult to keep track of the comments, and I basically use nothing but Jira Service Management. In fact, I use the free version because it works for me. I don't really need to use a paid version of Jira Service Management. Now, with of course your standard version of Jira, you can of course you will get more features. If you look at this top section here, basically you will get 250 GB of file storage, which is a lot. There are some limitations, like like if you talk about the free version, you can only send 100 email notifications. So maybe if you're, first of all, you can use it for n number of tickets. But if you're supposed to send an email to your customer, which I think you should enable, ideally you want your customers to get notified whenever they reach out to you. So it is always a good idea that you enable notifications. And there is a limit with the free version. For me, I don't really mind because I know I don't really get more than 100 emails, more than 100 tickets anyway, so it works for me. But of course, with the standard version of Jira, there is no such limit. And also with the premium version of Jira Service Management, you can also integrate your Jira Service Management or project, or maybe your tickets that you receive from your customers, you can actually integrate it with the CMDB. So it comes with insight or assets and configuration management. Basically, what will happen if you want to integrate your CMDB, your asset database with your project, then customers, when they raise a ticket, they can select the actual asset they want to refer to. For example, if let us say my keyboard is not working, so I can say, okay, this keyboard is not working, and it will of course be nothing but an asset somewhere in your database. It could be, your assets could be not physical, but it could be a virtual machine. So you can basically manage your assets if you want with the premium version. But of course, it is a bit expensive. And you also have enterprise version of Jira Service Management. But for this example, we'll be using nothing but the free version of Jira. And if you look at other features, you can of course follow this table here. And you can see here that the free version actually has almost everything that you may want. So it has more or less all the features that you can definitely use to get started. But of course, when you are growing, when you scale up, or maybe you are already in a position where you need to get maybe the premium version or maybe the standard version. So if you are not doing CMDB, then stick to the standard version. Otherwise, if you need to do CMDB, then of course you have the premium version of Jira Service Management. And there are some elements that we will take a look at today. So when you set up Jira Service Management, although you don't really have to, you can also integrate it with Opsgenie. So this integration with Opsgenie works really well. And Opsgenie is for alerting. And today we'll not really look at Opsgenie, but I will show you some elements of it. So basically you can create your services, and whenever people raise a ticket, they can actually select, or basically your tickets raised by customers can be part of those services that you are providing. So it can be useful because it works well with Opsgenie. And with the free version of Jira Service Management, you will get, or you can actually use it for implementing your ITSM based processes. For example, today what we'll do, we'll create a project and we'll use Jira Service Management project for a typical ITSM process like incident. So we will raise a new incident, and then we'll work on the incident, and we'll look at the process that you may want to follow to resolve your incidents. And usually when you raise a new incident, you may want to also raise a problem out of it. And from problem, you may also want to raise a change. So the way it works, if you're talking about ITSM, when you receive some problems, or not really problems, I should say, let us say tickets or incidents from your customer. Let us say your customers are talking about, okay, maybe they are not able to log in, or maybe they are not able to access your website, or maybe they have some problem with the service. So if multiple people are raising this ticket, then you need to do some analysis. And for doing that analysis, you may want to create a problem out of it. So usually multiple incidents are linked to problems, and those problems are, or that particular problem could be that you would use internally to understand, to investigate why we have so many incidents. And the outcome of a problem could be a change. So a change is all about, okay, what exactly we are going to change so that this problem, this underlying problem is resolved, so that we don't really get more incidents. So incident is always basically a customer, like when customers are reporting something to you, that something is not really working. And your ultimate goal is to ensure that you don't really get those incidents. But of course, whenever we talk about a service, you will always be dealing with those tickets or incidents. The objective, the goal is to resolve those incidents quickly and make sure that the same incident will not happen again, or at least in the near future. So you resolve what is not working, what needs to be fixed. And the change is basically something that you would do maybe in your service. So a change could be, okay, let us say we want to maybe update our database, right? And when we update the database, we might need to also update the driver. And then, of course, this will solve the problem and we will not get more incidents. So this is something that we'll take a look at today. So you can spend some time here on the page if you want. But let us start by creating a new project. Now, before I create a new project, I just want to show you. You can also do it if you want. If you're watching this video right now, or maybe if you are maybe referring to it later on, all you need to do, you just need to click on, to get started, by the way, you can click on this button on top called Get It Free, and you can then sign up for a new site, which is something that you can, you can actually create a new site for free. And my recommendation would be to start with free, so that you can always, because if you start with the premium version, then premium version will go away it will be an evaluation, and it will, of course, stop working after few weeks. Now, by the way, I just noticed that there is like an offer on the Atlassian website about JSM. So if you sign up, I think they are giving it away for free for 10 agents, of course, for the first year. So maybe this could be good motivation, because it is free. Why not try it out for free for first 1 year? So this is definitely interesting. So in case you want to save some money, I guess you can. So what I did, basically, I already have a Jira instance. So let me just do one thing. Let me just create a project for you. So I'll use my Jira instance where I will create my project, and I will basically use that project, a new project, to also show you how we can implement, how we can set up a typical ITSM process. So let me just go to this option on top called projects. And if you create a new site, you will basically get a similar option. It might not be in this brownish color because that is something that I modified. You might not also have this logo because this is my logo. So you can always change the look and feel of your Jira instance. So let me do one thing. Let me just create a new project. Now, because I'm using a free version of Jira, I have the option to create a free JSM project or free Jira work management or free Jira software-based project. So let me just focus on Jira service management. So before I proceed further, I just want to spend some time here. Now, if you're new to Jira, you always have the option to, of course, create a new project with a template. And these templates are good and bad at the same time. These templates are good because you can get started very quickly and you will get an idea and a feel of how Jira will work, what Jira is. So in a way, it is a good thing, but do it maybe on a test environment. But when you are using these templates on production, ideally you should reuse the configurations, because you shouldn't be creating multiple projects using these templates, because then Jira will create that project with a separate set of schemes. So in Jira, if you're familiar with the customizations, if you're familiar with the concept of those configurations, each and every project will have its own configurations, and that is of course not really ideal. But based on my experience, in most cases, not all the time, but in most cases, you may have one Jira instance with hundreds of projects, but you will always have very few Jira service management based projects, because usually you want, it depends how your support desk, how your service desk is set up, but you will never really have a lot of service desks in your organization. But what you can do, you can of course take a look at these templates. For example, if you want to, of course, these templates, by looking at the name itself, it might not be super obvious, because you won't really get a lot of information straight away. But again, you should be doing it on some test environment so that you can try it out. And if you don't really think it is working or it will work for you, just get rid of it, or maybe change the schemes. So, for example, if you look at general service management, as the name suggests, you will get some configurations when you are using Jira or this general service management for IT teams template. So you will basically get some simple request types, and you will also get some workflows, very, very, very simple workflows. But yeah, there are some predefined templates. At the same time, something like, let's take a look at customer service management. So when you look at customer service management, as the name suggests, you're talking about something that you want to receive from your customer, like some kind of support, and you will get basically these request types, which I think might work. And okay, let me just cancel it. I don't really want to create a project with that template. So let me go back to the create again. Similarly, for facility service management, I guess this also makes sense. So you have some request types. Now, if you're not massively familiar with Jira, in Jira, everything is an issue. For example, if we talk about your epics, your bugs, your stories, but at the same time, when it comes to Jira Service Management, you still have those issues, but those issues are usually incident, change, problem, and those issue types are mapped to something called as a request type. So request type is something that you will expose to your customers. Now, for this example, what I will do, I will use this template called IT Service Management. And I want to use this example because it is one of my favorite template or example, because it has like a lot of different issue types, workflows, and also request types. So let us quickly create a new project. And what I will do, I will basically name it as ITSM demo. And each and every project in Jira, just like any other project, will need to have a name and a key. And I will select here team type. So this team type is something new. It was not really there earlier, but using team types, you can, I guess, you will get some pre-configured things, like your queues might have different grouping, but this is something that you can take a look at. So for this example, I'll simply use, because we are doing IT service management, I'll select IT and create a project. So when you create a new project using a template, you will basically get some configurations out of the box. And these configurations are something that you can straight away start using, and it will get you started very, very quickly. And these are something that I recommend, these templates, in the beginning when you are trying to explore a tool like Jira Service Management. So before I proceed further, I just want to show you the main thing, and that is the portal. So in Jira Service Management, there is a concept of a queue. Queue is nothing but a bucket or a container of different tickets that you will receive, and you can organize your queues. You can create your own queues, and usually you will receive tickets from the portal. So there is a concept of a channel, and these channels in Jira Service Management based projects, you can have multiple channels. So one obvious way to raise a ticket is to click on this button on top. And of course, this is something that you're doing within Jira, and this works. But at the same time, you may want your customers to send an email to you. So that is also one channel. You also may want to integrate Jira with another tool, and that integration will happen using APIs. So you can also receive tickets from APIs. So API is also another channel. At the same time, you also have that widget that you can expose on your website. For example, if you go to my website, ravisagar.in, I do have a widget that I use to receive tickets. And if you click on this contact me, and if you fill up this form, you can actually raise a ticket for me. So this is also one channel called anonymous something. And the main channel is your portal. So if you go to the channels here, with each and every Jira Service Management based project, you basically get this portal. And this is actually a very common question that people ask. Can we have multiple portals for one project? So that is not a possibility yet. When you create a new project, you will get one portal. So one portal is equal to one project is equal to one portal. So let us now click on the Help Center and take a look at the portal. So this portal is basically for my project, and you can have multiple portals, by the way. So there is also something called as a Help Center, and this Help Center is basically a listing of all the portals. So these are all different projects, Jira Service Management based projects in my Jira instance. But I want to focus on ITSM demo. And by the way, you can always customize your portal if you want. You can have different headers and change the colors. Although natively, without using any app like Refined Wiki, you can't really modify a lot, but still it is enough. And it is fine, to be honest. But you may want to customize your portal completely. So you can take a look at Refined Theme. It works nicely. So when you look at your portal, you basically have few things here. So you have basically these groupings, and these groupings are nothing but grouping of different request types. So if you click on, let us say, common request, you can see under common request, you have different request types. So your request types are nothing but, something that is mapped to an issue type in Jira. But based on these request types, you can do some reporting. Based on these request types, you can ask your customer to fill up or provide some information. For example, you may want to capture some fields, and you may want to, of course, have a different process for these different request types, because these request types are nothing but issue types, and issue types will have a workflow. Every issue in Jira need to follow a workflow. So these are different groupings, and what we can do here is we can obviously click on it. For example, if I want to report broken hardware, so I can do that. I can say, okay, my printer is not working, right? This is definitely one valid ticket, right? And you can describe, I'm not able to print, and what is not working? Your printer is not working. Now, good thing about if you're using, let us say, assets, you can also integrate your assets. So your customers can actually select exactly which asset is not working. How's the urgency, critical, impact, moderate, I guess. So because I can live with it. So it is not critical, it is probably medium. So you can, of course, fill up this form. So this is, of course, one form that your customer can fill. And the form will be different based on the ticket. Now, for this example, as I mentioned before, we want to look at ITSM. So what I will do, I will basically go to this option called servers and infrastructure. And if I click on it, I have something like report a system problem, right? Or I can also say, okay, report broken hardware. So you can actually select these different options as a customer. So right now I'm acting as a customer because I want to report something which is not working. So let us say your shopping site is not working, or maybe your intranet is not working. Let us say your intranet is not working. So I'll simply select here maybe intranet, or maybe okay, whatever, intranet is not working, or intranet is too slow. It could be any application, whatever application you want to complain about. And at the same time, you can ask your customer to provide a bit more information, like too slow, not able to work. So this form is something that you can customize. And at the same time, if you want your Jira Service Management to be integrated with Opsgenie, you can. And I will probably show you some elements of it. Not really, we're not really going to look at each and everything. So you can actually configure these services in your Opsgenie, and based on these services, you can actually alert people if you want. So let us say shopping site is one of your service. So let me just, instead of intranet, let me say shopping site is too slow, right? So you can actually select this service, and this is critical because it is impacting my business, and the impact is large, and I'll raise the ticket. So this is, of course, a ticket, another ticket, similar ticket, but this particular form that you just filled in can be different. And when you're looking at your ticket, this is your customer view. Now at this stage, few things will happen. Your customers might get notifications if you have enabled notifications. At the same time, at the same time, your customer can also, because usually customers are anxious. If they don't get a response quickly, they may want to also, ask for an update. So they can always add comments here, like what is any update on this? And your customers, when they add a comment, of course, this will be people who are working on the ticket, like your agents, they can work on it. Now, your customers can also share this ticket within their organization if they want. So maybe if I want this particular ticket to be, maybe I want my manager to be aware of this ticket. So I can always share it with them if I want. And good thing about this view is that you can also see here what is the current status, because in Jira, because this request is mapped to an issue type, issue types are also mapped. Of course, issue types will have a workflow, and workflows are supposed to follow. Because when you have a workflow, you want people to follow a process. And you, of course, have these statuses, and you may want to report on it. But for your customers, they just want to know, okay, whether this ticket is open, someone is working on it, or whether it is resolved or not. So there is a status that they can track here. Now, if we go back, let us go back to the customer view, or not really customer view, sorry, the agent view. So I am now back in Jira, and if I go back to my queue, I can see here that we have 2 tickets that we received from our customers, and this view is nothing but my queue. So you can always have more queues that you may want to create. So there is something called as manage queue. You can always create your own queues if you want, but you will get with these templates some queues that you can straight away look at. For example, this is because this request type, something is not working, is mapped to an incident. So these will appear under incidents, but we can always, look at this queue called, if I go back to the queues under all open tickets. Now, this is all good. And I can see here that I can see the information about the ticket, but I can always click on the actual ticket and do something more on top of it. So this is now my agent view. My agent will now work on it. My agent will now, do something on this particular ticket. And if you look at this ticket here, this is nothing but a typical Jira issue view. So this is something that I'm sure if you're using Jira or if you have used Jira, this is no different from your Jira issue. Now, there are a few things that we can do here. You can, of course, modify the information. You can view the information. On the right-hand side, you have this SLA. So this is something that you can also configure in your Jira Service Management project. If you want, for some of the request types, you can have SLAs, because maybe you have an agreement with your customer, or maybe you have some internal policy that every ticket that you will receive needs to be resolved in 4 hours or 2 hours. And usually your SLAs are SLA is nothing but a clock that will run from defined time, let us say 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock, and it might not also run on weekends. So because it is a weekend, it is not paused, but you can also have reports based on SLAs. And this is, of course, a very typical thing that you can do with Jira Service Management. But if you look at this incident, we, of course, have this affected service. And this is something interesting because it was not really there earlier in Jira Service Management. Now you can see here that for this particular affected service, let us say your shopping sites or whatever service that you may have, there are a couple of tickets already. So people are complaining about it. So you need to do something. You need to take some action. And what you can do is you can also let your customer know. So you can let your customer know by doing a couple of things. You can either directly add a comment. So when you add a new comment, you can also say, okay, I'm replying to my customer, because there is a concept of internal comment or internal note, as they call it on Jira Cloud, but you can also reply to your customer. There's something called as inform stakeholders, because usually if you're trying to follow, or if you have, let us say, these services in Opsgenie, they are also or can be mapped to your group of people, and they are basically owners of those services. So maybe you want to notify them, alert them, and that is what we have Opsgenie for. So if you look at the workflow of this incident is very simple. You have, of course, open, work in progress, pending, complete, cancelled, and closed. Simple, right? But you may want to create your own workflow. So this is something that you should look at based on your situation, based on the kind of work that you're doing in your organization. And if you click on the investigate button on top, basically if you make a transition, you can actually do a couple of things. You can assign in the ticket to yourself, and you can say to your customer, we are working on it. So this is something that you can do. And this is great because now you are letting your customer know. Now, if you go back to your portal, you can see that any comment that you add is now reflected here on the portal. And because I'm just doing the same thing, because I am also the customer, I'm also the agent, you will see my name. But of course, it will be your customer's or your agent's name. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to do very quickly. I just want to show you the ITSM process, a typical ITSM process. Now, when you have multiple tickets, you may want to now create a problem. Now, this is something that you can do if you want. So you can always create a new problem, and you can also link it to this incident. So you can click on this link issue, and you can say, okay, you want to create a new problem. So when you create a new problem, you can select from the list here that, okay, I want to report or raise a new problem. And there is, of course, this link. And at the same time, you may want to also select other issues that are probably, I mean, you can have multiple incidents basically from multiple projects or maybe in the same project. And this will pre-fill some of the information for you, but you can also have something like problem. So this is definitely a problem. And I want to have this summary so that I can recognize it easily. So let us create a new problem and let us look at what this problem will behave. And by the way, you can also collapse the sidebar because it might be bothering you. So you can always do this if you want. Okay, so if you look at this problem, this is again another ticket. Now, the good thing about Jira is that this problem can be in the same project, or maybe it is not a problem. Maybe it's a dev ticket for your development team. So you can always have these, linking between different issues. But I want to show you one wonderful thing like that you can do using automation. So you can see here that this problem is basically linked to these two incidents. This incident, shopping site is too slow, is something that we raised just now. And there is a link, which is great, but the workflow of your problem might be different. So your workflow for your problem may not be customer, because your customers, they don't really care about the workflow, but you still want to know, you may want to communicate and let your customer know that we are doing something. Now, in Jira, of course, you can have these two issues linked to each other. But let us say the moment you start working, because right now, if you go back to your customer raised request, your customer is, of course, looking at the status, but maybe it is a good idea to also let your customer know that, yes, we are working on, we realize something is wrong and we want to fix it. So we want to work on it, and we have identified a problem and trying to fix it. So this is something that you can do on your problem. And if I raise this problem, or if I add this comment, let me just go back to my customer request. Basically, this particular this particular ticket that I raised from the portal. Now, as a customer, of course, the comment that I added was on the problem. So maybe your internal team is working on it, but it might be a different project, or maybe maybe you need a way to let your customer know that someone is working on it, just to keep your customers happy and informed. But right now, there is no automation that will basically do something to your original ticket raised by your customer. But we can fix it, and we can fix it by doing some automation. So let me also show you one automation that we can configure, that we can create to link these, not only link these two tickets together, but also transfer the information. So I'll go to the automation rules, and I will look at one rule that I have, so which is right now enabled. So right now this rule is basically going to comment on linked issues. So when you create a new rule, you have the option to, of course, configure it. Right now I want my rule to work on this project called ITSM demo. So I'll select the project name, and I also want this rule to only focus on this project only. Because I don't really want, because if you're using automation rules, if you're not really aware of it, if you are using, if your scope is not single project, if your scope is a multiple project, then those executions will count towards your limit. But if you are using single project automation, then you don't have to worry about the limits. Now what this rule is doing, whenever there is a new comment added on the ticket, any ticket in the project, you can actually look for the linked issues. For example, if you go back to the problem, now because my problem is linked to, or my problem was linked from incident ticket, but the type of the link on my problem is causes, right? So make sure that whenever you are defining this rule, whenever you are using this branch rule, you define or you specify the actual link type, which is in this case causes. And what you want to do, you want to basically add a comment on the linked issue. Basically, from your problem ticket, you want to basically add a comment back to the incident, and maybe you also want to notify your customer. So when you add a new comment, you can specify here some smart values. So basically on the incident ticket itself, you can actually specify the issue key of your problem, and you can also copy the comment by doing this simple smart value. And if you're dealing with customers, I think it is always a good idea to also share it with your customer so that the visibility is not internal. And that is it. So once you do this, just publish your comment. And if I look at the audit log, let us now do the same thing again. Let us go back to the problem and let us now add a new comment again. So we are working on it. I hope it works. I'm doing it after a while now. And if I go back to my rule or my audit log, I can see success here. So I think it worked. Let us go back to the customer raised ticket. And if I refresh this, so you can see here the customer is now, customer can see the comment that we added. Of course, you can modify it based on your requirements, but this is something that I wanted to show you. Now, the last thing that you may want to do out of it, you may also want to link it to, because the outcome of a problem is some kind of resolution that you want to do. And this outcome could be, let us say you are, you've identified that, yes, I need to change something. So maybe to fix this problem of slow website, slow internet, you need to raise maybe a change. So you can do the same thing. You can basically link or create a linked issue of type called change. And the way changes work is different, because whenever you change something, you might need an approval from few people. You might need to also make sure that you are working on change window when you want to release it on production, for example. So let me just change it to change, the summary, so that I know it is change. And if I click on the create button, I can then see here that, okay, we have this new change issue type, which is again nothing too different from a typical issue in Jira. But there are a few things that you can do here. First of all, let me show you the workflow. So the workflow of a change is very restrictive. You want people to first plan something, then you want to authorize it, and after you authorize it, someone will of course approve it, and then you will implement it. So there is a workflow that you can follow. But before you can, before I show you how you can do things with change, how you can proceed further, let me just do one very simple thing. Let me just make sure that the request type is also filled in here, because whenever you select a request type here, there are few elements that are enabled for you. For example, the moment I select a request a change, and if I refresh this particular ticket, I can see here a few things. Number one, I can see here this calendar view, and what you can do here is you can now say, okay, when you want this change to be rolled out on, let us say, production. So let us say the change or the outcome is that we want to, I'm sure there is a field that we can use here to basically specify or to basically collect or basically to be more clear and precise about what exactly we want to change here. So for example, the change is, okay, we want to upgrade something, right? Implementation plan is that upgrade the database version of MySQL, right? So this is something that you can, and of course your backout plan, whatever things that you want to capture here. Now, there are a few things that you can also check here, and you can also do here. For example, if I go back to the calendar, I can now say, okay, I want this to be rolled out on Sunday, 15th of January, and I want to do it maybe, I can see, of course, on Sunday, there are already some changes happening, which is great because this change calendar is basically for everyone to view. But I can say, okay, there is a window from 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock. So this is something that you can, specify here. And this is going to now, because based on this window, based on this duration that you have defined here, now people can look at the change calendar. And this change calendar, basically what you're doing here is you're basically updating two fields called planned start date and planned end date. And by the way, I did this population of these fields directly, but you should be looking at the workflow to do it. So make sure you follow the workflow and make sure you follow some path. But I'll just, do an emergency override because yes, we are implementing. Now, good thing about Jira is that, especially on cloud, we have few things like risk summary and, these incidents. So basically some information about this change. What is the risk? And do we have any linked incidents based on that service? Remember that service that we selected earlier? And this is, of course, definitely useful. These things were not really there earlier. These are like, new features, new additions that we have in Jira Service Management. And I think the idea here is that we want to link things together. The processes should be a bit more tight. And this is, to be honest, a typical ITSM process where you started with the incident, then you moved on to problem, then of course you moved on to changes. Of course, in this particular session, in the last 1 hour, we have been focused mostly on doing a simple implementation of Jira Service Management. And as you can see, you can get started very quickly. I mean, I'm doing it within like 40 minutes. Within like half an hour, 40 minutes, I was able to set up a new project with things that are working out of the box. Of course, this automation was not really there earlier. It might not be there in your case, but setting up automation is something that you should think about later. When you have these processes, then you should think of how you can improve it. Look for the opportunities where you can save time, where you can reduce manual effort. And talking about the configurations, if you look in, because it is nothing but Jira project, you have these issue types that you will get with your project. At the same time, you have the request types, which I talked about. So each and every request type is linked directly to your to your issue types in Jira. And you can always create your own issue type, like maybe your maybe you want to say, okay, major incident. So this is something that you can create, and you can map it to incident. And you can also, say, okay, I want this to appear in my common request. So the moment you create a new request type, it will be there for your customers to view. And you can, of course, see here that, of course, we have this new request type called major incident, which is now added. And of course, the field or the fields that you want to configure is something that you can now change and configure based on your needs. For example, bare minimum, I think you need to have, some kind of a description, right? So you can also customize this based on your needs. On Jira Service Management on cloud, there's something called as forms, which could be useful. I still need to explore it. I never really used it for my customer implementation, but this is something useful because you can create a form for your customers. To be honest, I'm not really sure why we have forms, because we already have the option to create fields, but I believe these forms can be dynamic. So this is something that I need to explore. At the same time, there's something called as external resources. So basically you can actually link your, you can basically have links to other resources. But the best part of Jira Service Management is the integration with a knowledge base. So if you're using Jira Service Management, then you may want to integrate your Jira Service Management project with your Confluence knowledge base. So it has to be in Confluence, and you can actually create a space in Confluence if you have Confluence already, or you can link it to an existing space. And the moment you do it, it will basically give your customers this ability to perform some self-service. So maybe you want to deflect some tickets, because in majority of cases, people raise tickets because they're lazy or they don't really want to search online. So they just raise a ticket. But ideally, they should be looking at the documentation, and you can actually make this process a bit more smooth for them, so that whenever they are raising a ticket, they can view those articles and they can also help themselves. And we do have some reports that will tell you how many tickets were deflected from those articles. And at the same time, you do have these SLAs that you can configure based on your needs. Your SLAs can also be mapped to calendars, because why not? You should have calendars. And at the same time, we briefly looked at this automation. So you can always create your own automation rules so that you can so that you can save time. And there are some other things that you should definitely look at. For example, you may want to modify your portal. You may want to also look at your email request. You may also want to look at your customer notifications. So these things are quite, to be honest, in 2023, although Jira is not really perfect, Jira is not the best tool ever, but Jira works, and Jira can be customized. And I think, although I'm not a big fan, or I was never really a fan of Jira Cloud, but I think Jira Cloud, easy, and things are still in some places not massively obvious, but at the same time, as compared to what things were on Jira Data Center or on-prem version of Jira, because on-prem version of Jira was always, you always had to get help from a consultant, but that is not the case right now. You can actually do it yourself. And also look at the widget that you can configure, which I showed you on my website. And one thing that you can do now very easily is integrate your Jira with either Slack or I believe Microsoft Teams as well. So maybe if you want to have some alerts, you can. So basically you can ask your customers, let us say you have internal customers, maybe you want them to raise tickets from their Slack messages, they can. So this is something that we will definitely explore. And this is pretty much what I wanted to show you. And also take a look at the workflows, because you may want to make these workflows your own, and you may want to modify these workflows based on what you do in your organization. And also when you talk about Jira Service Management, these Jira Service Management based projects, they all come with their own wonderful reports. These reports may not be super useful in the beginning, but at the same time, when you start using Jira Service Management, you can always, if you're not satisfied with the internal reports or the project specific reports, you can always create your own reports. So using your own dashboards if you want. So I think Jira Service Management in 2023 is definitely feature rich, and I thought I'll probably talk about it in this particular session, the very first webinar of 2023. So this is all I wanted to talk about today in this session, in this webinar. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.